Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am Zach, one of the hosts, and the other host is Chris. What's up, buddy?
Hello, everyone. Hello, my great friend Zach. Awesome to be here as always. So glad to be here. We made it through another week. So of our professional and busy lives. So thank
Barely.
goodness. Yeah, barely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was a long week, man. Long
Yeah,
week. Actually, kind of a long weekend, too. Just family sick. And, it's that time of the season, the time of the year, right? Tis the season for people getting sick and there's stuff going around. When you have kids, they're petri dishes. So they bring everything home and then people get sick and
yep,
always dealing with something, right?
for sure. I have been shoveling and shoveling and shoveling snow up here. There's so much snow.
I, I'd like to say that I had the same problem, but I didn't have the same problem. I was shoveling a lot of sunshine and maybe some other stuff that
Oh
may
my
not be may not be appropriate for this channel. But yeah, no, yeah, you sent me some pictures. I was man, I do not miss snow. I will tell you that I don't miss
yeah,
snow.
yeah.
Don't
Just
miss
keeps
it
on
at all.
coming, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I know. I saw your cars were covered in snow.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed they were.
So,
Wow.
yeah, well, if this is your first time to the podcast, welcome. We are two nerdy guys who love to talk about all things nerdy and geeky or whatever you want to call it, from Star Trek to Star Wars and everything in between. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for the Random Redshirt Podcast, and you will find us there. You can also find us on YouTube. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button and like and follow us and the bells for the notification things and everything so you can see the video version of our episodes, or at least a chunk of the episodes, because they weren't all done with video initially. So, anyways, my spiel's over. But Chris, at the time of
Indeed.
this recording, we're just a little over halfway through December 2023, and we're winding down the year. And we decided that we're gonna do another look back on this year. We kind of did something similar to that last year, I think, right? We did like a New Year's special where we kind of did the same thing.
We did. We did do a same thing last year. You know what'd be interesting is to listen to what we did or watch what we did last year and then compare it to what we did this year. I really like these in terms that it gives us like a chance to reflect on what we enjoyed, some highlights that we liked, some things that we like talking about, amongst the things we love, right? We either whether it was comics or science fiction or movies or shows or books. So that was
Yeah.
excellent. And a lot of it, when I was thinking back, I was thinking, oh, it was embarrassing, like how little I had seen, um, particularly like movies. I We'll talk about that when we get there, but I yeah, I saw very little. So that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. Yeah, there's been a lot. It's been a crazy year. I think. I mean, a lot of people are going to say that, right? Life happens and things are going, and you get busy, and you got work and family, and we try to find time to squeeze this podcast in as best we can to bring you guys some great content, great interviews. At the time of this recording, our last episode was with the legendary Hollywood producer Matt Williams, and had an absolute blast talking with him. I could have talked with him for hours, just all the stories
Mhm.
he has, and it was such a fun time learning about what he's done. So it was great.
Yeah, that was a we learned like so much from him, and his background, and he's a teacher at Columbia, so it was great to hear all about that. And so
Yeah, and of course
people
talk
yeah.
about home improvement too,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. People should
yeah.
definitely check him
I
out.
Yeah, and make sure you go on and pre-order or order if you're listening or watching this after it comes out. His book Glimpses, you can find it on Amazon and other places. I pre-ordered mine on Amazon, so I'm looking forward to getting that in the near future. I think comes out February. What do you say it was, like February 20th or something like that of 2024.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to getting that. There's gonna be lots of great stories. Even shared some stuff from the book during our interview. So if you haven't had a chance to watch or listen to that, be sure to go back to the link below on YouTube and find our videos. If you're listening to us or you're watching us on YouTube, there's a really easy option. If you go to our YouTube channel and you go to playlists, there's an actual playlist there that has all of the videos of all of our guests that we've done with video. There was a couple we didn't do with video, like my buddy Sean Cannon. But in general, pretty much all of our guests we've done on YouTube are in that playlist. So you can go back and watch all of the celebrity guest interviews we've done over the last couple of years in that playlist. So be sure to go check that out. You can save that and watch those later as well. So with that being said, though, Chris, let's talk about the year in review. Um, I,
Yeah.
lot of good memories. Yeah, a lot of good memories this past year. I put kind of down some of my like top five things I kind of felt like stood out to me this year for me personally, and then just a few things that I've either watched or read or started to read but maybe haven't finished yet. Those types, usually that's the way the case it is for me. But yeah, so what do you got, Chris? What are some things you've watched and read this year that you really enjoyed? I
Yeah.
know you've done a lot of reading this year.
Done a lot of reading this year. Yeah. I didn't organize by like top lists or anything or top five. So there's just kind of random things that I enjoyed, that I liked, that kind of stood out to me, that I would recommend other people that they would perhaps enjoy as well. But I know you and I both like comics. And so I did have a chance to read at least several graphic novels throughout this year,
Yeah.
which I liked. Yeah. And I think I had mentioned this one before, but there's a couple graphic novels that really stood out to me. One that one that is maybe like my favorite graphic novel of all time. Um, so Batman Court of Owls, you've heard of that. And that was a graphic novel I read, and that was I really liked. That was really good. But the graphic novel that just really stood out to me, really actually kind of moved me, and for me, is maybe one of the best graphic novels I've read. Surprisingly so, because this is not one of my favorite staple superhero characters at all, but it is the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, written by Tom King. And
Mm.
yeah, that one just,
Tom King's a pretty famous writer too.
yeah, he is. It was just that graphic novel. If even if people are not so much into Supergirl or not familiar with that character, I would just recommend it for anyone to read. For me, it was a very much an inspiring story of hope. There was a lot of adversity and challenge that the protagonist went through, and it was a great ending, and I think a testament to the strength of character of Supergirl. I had heard rumors that this is what they're going to base the future Supergirl movie off of.
Oh,
So
nice.
we'll see if that occurs. But a beautiful graphic novel, beautiful art. Actually, I happen to just bring up a picture of it here. So yeah,
Nice.
that is of the comics that I have read this year. That one stands out as number one,
Nice.
definitely so far. Yeah, so I had that. Anything in the comics realm, like on your end, or any thoughts that you had?
Yeah, I mean Batman Noel. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that was great. I like that a lot. I finished it and I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't read this with my kids. Might be a little bit too dark for them.
Mm,
And then the Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle #1. Been
oh
reading through
yeah.
that with my well, not finished yet, but been reading through that with my kids. They really seem to enjoy it. There was one, I think I already said this before, but there was like one line in there where Michelangelo says something effective like, "You look like you need a hug or a pizza hug," and my kids just lost it. They thought it was so funny. So that was good. Yeah, I haven't really read too many comics this year, to be honest with you. The reading I have done has been either like autobiographies or fiction novels, things like
Mm,
that. Haven't done a lot of reading, although I would say I've done more reading this year than last year, so I think that's a plus. It's
yeah.
not that I can't read, guys. Okay, I can read. Just it's hard to find time to read because my time to read is in the evening, and by the time the evening
Yeah.
comes around, I'm exhausted and so if I do read, I don't tend to read at length. My best time for me to read typically is like late Saturday mornings or early afternoons because I'm the most awake and I can usually plow through stuff better. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I did not read a lot of comics this year.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, I totally get it with like feeling that you don't have enough time to read, like in our professional lives when we're reading through volumes of professional handbooks and emails. And then by the time we get to the end of the day, we're like, oh, we don't want to look at a screen anymore.
yeah,
Or yeah, yeah,
yeah,
excellent.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've read some books and things like that. Again, I haven't finished them all, but Restarted and went back and started to read Heir to the Empire again. The first
Outstanding.
Timothy Zahn book, right? That started the whole Thrawn legacy and Thrawn story arc. So that's been good getting back into that. I've got some other books that I want to read. Books I picked up. I picked up one when I was on a work trip called Death Troopers, and it looks like they're like zombie stormtroopers. I think we talked about that when I
Yeah,
picked it up. Haven't read that yet, but that's on my list of things to read. Um, let's see. Some of the other Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I gotta get reading on those. I'm gonna read this thing here, the Benjamin
beautiful.
Sisko autobiography. Yep. So I'm looking forward to reading that. Uh, I want to read Natalia's book she sent us.
Yes.
So that'll be
Yes.
great. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I'm going to. I know you just throw it on a shelf somewhere or use it as a doorstop, but I'm not going to do that. I do want to actually read it and give it the time it deserves because I'm sure it's a fantastic book. I have heard great things about it. So if you haven't read it yet, it's called a One Woman's War. You can find that. I think it's on it. You can find it on Amazon and things like
Mm,
that. So be sure to go out and pick that up from our friend Natalia Nogalich, who played Admiral Nechayev in Star Trek TNG and DS9. We had her on with us, which is amazing. You can find her interview on your favorite podcast platform or right here on our YouTube channel.
yeah, yeah. Now,
So definitely want to read that.
and you read the Ralph, was it this year? Was the Ralph Macchio book, was that this year or last year? Yeah.
That was last year only because I got it for Christmas and I finished it in 2 days. I
Okay.
just because I was off, I had the time, right? I just sat down, but what nothing going on, so I just sat down and started reading it. And it's not a huge book, and the way they lay the text out on the pages, it's not like some books it's just the pages are just chalked like Game of Thrones,
Hmm.
they're just chocked full of text. Right? This isn't that way. The way the publisher made it, it's really easy to go through it pretty quickly, I think. And I was not only that, but it's a great book. Ralph Macchio's waxing on his story about being the Karate Kid and everything, and his career. It was a wonderful read, very easy to dive into and kind of get lost in the book. And so I just found myself not being able to put it down.
Oh,
Great book.
wonderful.
And I did. I finished
Wonderful.
it in 2 days. Might have been a record for me.
Awesome. I
Yeah, but that was last year because it I would have literally finished it before New Year's Day.
gotcha. And you know I've been reading the Expanse books, and so
Yes.
I'm on book 6 now, on Babylon's Ashes. But so far of the books that have stood out to me from the Expanse series was book 5. Book 5 was called Nemesis Games, and that book in the Expanse series was just so much action in it and was
Mm,
really interesting, and it was uh, of compared to all the other books I have read so far in the Expanse, more focused on the main characters and their perspectives. So I liked that, because the other books had gone off of the main characters a little bit and gone on to their perspectives, but Nemesis Games was straight on the main characters and their perspectives on the action that was happening, and a lot of action in that book. So that's a
nice.
standout book for me so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read that. I started reading the Halo book. I believe it
Mm-hmm.
was this. No, maybe I started it last year, but I read a little. I read some more of it this year. Started reading Arnold's book, "Be Useful: Seven Tools
Yeah.
for what was it? 7 Tools for Life." It's been pretty good, pretty motivating. I'm not finished with it yet, but I'm getting there. So yeah, I've definitely done more reading this year than last year, but certainly could stand to read maybe more, even more next year. I'm hoping
Nice.
that'll be the case too. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Most
So it was
excellent.
good. What about watching, Chris? What are some of the things that you've watched that either stood out to you, whether it's movies or shows or whatever?
Yeah, I'll start with the movies, because it's kind of embarrassing when I look at the number of movies I watched. So I was really thinking hard about this, and uh, okay, we'll have to talk through this, Zach. But I may have only watched. I think I only watched 4 movies.
Well, are they 4 movies that you had seen or 4 new movies?
Two. Okay, these are new.
Okay.
These are new movies. So, and that I'm in that I'm including the Babylon 5 pilot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. It's new. Yeah, you haven't seen it. It's okay.
Yeah. So that was. what in the 90s, but hey, I got to it, everybody. So I got to the Babylon 5 pilot. So it
There
was
you go.
good. And so that's one. Another one is a animated movie, the Batman the Doom that came to Gotham. Um, and so that was an animated movie, kind of a crossover from H.P. Lovecraft, Cthulhu. So I watched that. That was good. Really enjoyed that. Dungeons and Dragons. Uh, this is
With Chris Pine.
with Chris Pine. It was
Yeah. Was that any
super
good?
funny.
Because I've heard it was
Oh,
good.
it's
Yeah, I've heard it
so
was
good.
good.
It was so good. It was so good, and I needed that movie. It was so funny. So I really enjoyed that. So I
Nice.
recommend it. Highly recommend it. You should definitely see it. And I Ad Astra. Ad Astra is Brad Pitt, and it's science fiction, and that one, it's a serious movie, but like through that movie, Brad Pitt's character is searching for his father. I think his father is out on the outskirts of the solar system,
Hmm.
and he's trying to discover what happened. So yeah, I that one really struck a chord with me. I really liked it. I'm surprised it took me so long to see it, but I did finally see it. But
Yeah.
of those, those stood out. I think those are the only four movies. I did really enjoy like each of them. I had movies that maybe I started, but I actually didn't finish. So I that's just how I am. I guess I'll start something, and if it's not really clicking with me, I'll just say no, I can't do it. And so of those was one that I know you and I were really excited about at one point was the Flash movie.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, Michael Keaton as Batman again.
yeah.
I
So
still haven't seen it.
you haven't seen it? So I mean I watched I watched some of it, and then I it was not working for me, and I just had to stop. I just felt like, hey, is this supposed to be a comedy? And I just I stopped. Like
Mm.
it this didn't feel right to me, and I just maybe I'll go back and see some more of it, but I just felt like it didn't look to me what the trailers were showing, and at that point I was just okay. I'm not gonna watch it because it just felt like almost like a slapstick comedy
Oh
as far as I
really?
could think. Yeah,
It doesn't have a very good feel, then, does it?
yeah, and maybe when you see it, you'll think like differently. Um, that's how it got. That's how it got to me, man. Those are the movies, at least on my end. I did not get to see Indiana Jones. I know we both wanted to see that,
Yeah.
so I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, and none in the movie theater, obviously.
Hmm.
So that was me in terms of movies. Did you? Hopefully, you got to see more than me.
Well, so I don't know. I'm trying to think back. I can't really think of too many like new movies I saw that really stand out. I
Yeah.
don't really know that I watched too many new movies. There might have been a movie here or there that I saw at the movie theater, but most likely it was a kids movie with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really go to the movies that often, and if I do to go see a movie for me, I usually go alone because the movies I go to see, my wife has no interest in.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, I've seen tons of movies on my own. I went and saw Rogue One by myself. I saw Force Awakens by myself. I saw James Bond, Skyfall, Spectre, and those two by myself. I mean, I have no problem going to the movies by myself. I just sit there and watch a movie. It's not like I'm at a restaurant eating alone or something like that. Um, but yeah, I can't really remember too many new movies that I saw. I saw movies that are old or older that I maybe either I've never seen or I haven't seen in a long time. I could think of stuff like the Universal Soldier, what is it called? The Return, which is a
Mm.
terrible, terrible movie. It's so bad. It's not as good as the first Universal Soldier. I mean Van Damme's in it, but the movie itself is really bad. It's really bad. I saw, let's see, I saw Death Warrant. I don't know if
There
I'd
we
ever
go.
actually seen that Van Damme movie, and if I had, it's been a long time. So I saw that. I watched the Dollars trilogy with Clint Eastwood. So you're talking about a fistful of dollars for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is the trilogy of movies that he made. And those are some of the best westerns that are out there, in my opinion. But I did watch a lot more shows.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the shows were like either rewatches or maybe I hadn't really seen them in a long time. So I started DS9 for the
There
eighth
you go.
time, for the eighth time through. I don't have a sickness, I promise. I started my second watch through of Enterprise, and that's been wonderful. I'm almost halfway through season 3 now, which is depressing because I know there's only like a season and a half left of the show.
Hmm.
I started Sequest DSV because I found it on Blu-ray. I think I told you a while back I found it
Yeah.
at Walmart on Blu-ray, and I started watching that. I've only watched the first couple episodes, so I'm not far into it. But I'd seen it when it was on back in the day, but don't remember a whole lot about it. So it's been interesting watching that show again. I did watch a show on Netflix, and I've watched other stuff too. A lot of it's like baking competitions that are random shows with my wife that don't really need to be mentioned here because nothing really to talk about. Not that I'm embarrassed, I watch them, but it's just there's not really anything to talk about. But there was one show that I wanted to mention. I watched on Netflix. There was 8 episodes. I think they just did the 8 episodes and it's done because the way it's written, it was completely closed up at the end. Was a modern take, and by take I mean a loose take on Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher, which was
Hmm.
actually a play I was in high school, believe it or not. And I didn't know a whole lot about Edgar Allan Poe until I got to high school, and I started reading some of his stuff, and because I was in the play and everything. And I have his complete works here, and it's wonderful because the play is loose, or not play, the show is loosely based on the short story of the Fall of the House of Usher, and I mean that very loosely. It's
Hmm.
more in title than anything else, but there was a lot of references in the show along with episode titles that reference other things like The Raven and Murder at Rue Moore and so many other works of Edgar Allan Poe's and poems and things he had written, like Annabelle Lee and stuff like that, that were all throughout the show. The show was intriguing. It starred Bruce Greenwood, our guy who played Captain Pike in the JJ movies and has
Hmm.
been in a million other things. Great actor. It also had Mary McDonough, who played um the President Rosalind in Battlestar Galactica, a female
Hmm.
president. And she's been the president, was the president's wife in Independence Day and a million other things too. Had quite a few names. Oh, by the way, Mark Hamill was in it. He was
Really?
Pym. He was Pym, who was the Usher's family lawyer.
Okay.
So he was really good in it. But it was very disturbing. There, there were it wasn't quite Event Horizon bad, but there were some pretty gnarly moments in that show. Yeah, it was interesting.
Oh,
I still not sure if I liked it or not. I liked some of the fact I liked a lot of the call outs and the ties that it had to a lot of the different works that Edgar Allan Poe's written. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very undecided on that. I watched it all the way through because it's one of those things where it's like you have to finish it because you want to see everything that happens and stuff.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that was interesting. I will say that might have been the most interesting new show that I watched this year. If any of you have seen that or anything, let me know because I'm curious on your thoughts. But yeah,
What
very
was that
interesting.
on? What streaming service, or was it streaming?
Netflix.
Netflix?
Yeah, Netflix. It's on Netflix. Yeah, you can watch it if you want. Every episode I wouldn't say is disturbing, but there's a lot of like really bad language, and a few gory scenes in it. Again, I wouldn't say it's like necessarily Event Horizon bad, but there's some like ooh, kind of things in it. But
Um,
if you know Poe's work enough, you'll recognize a lot of the call outs of some of his poems and the names of the episodes and things like that. And then they kind of bring the whole thing together and tie it all together under this guise of the fall of the House of Usher.
yeah.
Anyways, a very, very interesting take. I was interested in it, then I watched it, and yeah, I'm not sure what I think of it. Be honest with you. I don't know that I like it or
Um,
hate it. I don't think I hate it, but anyways, so that was probably one of the things I can think of that stood out as far as new shows go.
yeah.
Watched a lot of Star Trek, obviously. We watched it. You and I mean, we watched a ton of Star Trek this year. How about
Yeah.
actually? You know what? Now that I think about it, there was a new show that I watched. Two new shows: Strange New World season 3 and
Yeah.
Picard season 3.
Yeah.
We both watched that. So
We
I
both
mean,
did.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention Picard season three. I mean, that
Yeah.
was that season was incredible.
Yeah, that absolutely was incredible. It was a beautiful season. All the characters come back, so many callbacks, beautiful special effects. We got to meet and some of the creators and talk about the show as it was going and review the show like as it was going, and an incredible experience like all around. Still, we're talking about it. I haven't gotten back and watched the episodes again, but like I hope to do that like in the near future because it was just such a great show. um
Yeah.
yeah, but absolutely, we had Picard, we had Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This year also was the well, this was when I first started seeing some of the Star Trek Lower Decks animated series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Was 2023 the first year that you had seen it as well, or had you seen it before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, this was the first time I'd seen it. Yeah, I've watched like the first 7 or 8 episodes, I think.
Yeah. So for sure enjoyed like watching those. I haven't been able other shows like I have not been able to keep up with the Marvel shows.
Yeah,
Um
I'm way out on those.
some some non-science fiction I had been watching in the background is Castle. Castle
Oh,
with
yep.
yeah,
That what
really
is that
enjoyed
the one with
that.
Nathan Fillion? Is that he's in
It
that?
is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And as I was watching the show, it was so awesome that some of the guest stars would be from the same actors from Firefly would come in some of the
Yeah.
guest shows. So
There-
that was really fun to see. So I've been enjoying that. In the background, the show that my wife really likes to watch is Criminal Minds,
Mm.
and
My wife likes
uh,
that show too.
yeah,
Yep.
boy, yeah, she likes that one a lot. So that one can get kind of heavy. So that's not like
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I gotta
Yeah.
step away and go, oh, it's just too heavy for me. So I won't see that. But we had watched Ahsoka this year too,
Yep.
and
Unfortunately.
and I had watched some
Was
of
was Obi-Wan this year or was that last year?
2022. Yeah, I
Okay, that
think
was last
I
year.
looked
Okay.
back. Yeah, yeah, and I was wondering the same thing about Andor, but I think Andor was last year too.
It might have been.
Yeah, but Ahsoka was this year. For me, I started watching some of the Orville. I
Mm.
stopped after a little while, but there were some fun episodes in the Orville. And
You just
most,
reminded me,
yeah,
Chris. I did start watching uh Star Wars Rebels with the kids. I'd only
mm,
watched like the first maybe 2 episodes of that animated series.
yeah,
And just didn't have the time for it. And then when Ahsoka was coming out, I wanted to start watching it to kind of get some of the backstories of things and catch up. And so yeah, I watched that with my kids. We still have to finish it, but I think we're in season 3 of 4. So we've watched a really big chunk of it. We typically watch it like Friday nights.
nice. Oh, that's good.
So
But
yeah,
the
you
kids would
reminded
like
me when you
that.
were talking about Star Wars. Yeah.
I do really like Cosmos, so I watched Cosmos with the host Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Mm.
Some National Geographic ones, Explorer ones that are on Disney, which are great to see. And most recently, what I am enjoying, because so this year, 2023, my favorite captain, right, with Picard, my favorite Doctor, the 10th Doctor with David Tennant, is coming out.
Yeah.
Right, so he's got the three specials
Now
on
he's going to
Disney
be the
Plus.
14th Doctor, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, so when we get a chance to get caught up on that, I I I've been able to watch the first couple episodes, and then when you get a chance to watch it, then we can talk about
Yeah, for sure.
it.
For sure. Well, what about so I don't know if you have anything you have listed, but I kind of wrote down like kind of my top 5 things from this year. I mean,
Mhm.
there's more. And I will preface this with this doesn't include like, obviously my family being healthy and the normal stuff that you would talk about, right? Hey, my family's healthy, they're safe, they're, taken care of. That's all kind of a given right now in
Yeah,
this case. All right. So that would be number one, obviously, but as of right now, this would be the kind of some of the highlights of things that I can think of from this year that, you know, stood out to me. So did you do that at all?
Yeah, but I really have like just one number one. So I don't have a top
You have a number
five.
one? Okay.
I do
That's
have,
fine. That's fine. I'll
yeah,
talk. I'll go through a couple of them then, I guess.
yeah.
So for me, one of the things would have been this year's Star Trek convention, meeting Christina Chong and networking
Mm,
with some really amazing people at the convention. People such as Max Cervantes, who we had on with us. You can find his episode on our YouTube channel and podcast platforms. Todd Marks, who is a playback supervisor on Picard. We're going to have him on with us in here in the near future. And he's worked on so many amazing big time projects. Liz Kuklowski, who was on with us as well, the art director from Picard season 3, and she's doing some amazing things. Tracy Coco, we had on with us, my buddies James and Tommy. Like, it was a great time at the convention. We obviously missed you, wish you could have been there. But it was a wonderful time and one of my favorite conventions I've ever had, just because I didn't have a schedule. It was just like hanging out with people, networking with people, and yeah, just had a good time. So that was definitely one for sure.
man, it's awesome.
I would be remiss though if I didn't mention the Shuttle Pod Show's live event, because that was great. Getting
Mm,
a chance to reunite with you in person and hang out, see you for the first time in several years. I mean, spending 20 minutes talking with Walter Koenig, and backstage with Jeffrey Combs and Vaughn Armstrong and um, the Now Visitor,
yeah.
and obviously seeing Mark and Erica was great. So yeah, that
Sirach
was
too. We got to spend time with
yeah,
Sirach. Yeah.
Rock. Yeah, I had a great time at that event.
Yeah. That was awesome, man.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to both go again this year. It's going to be in April. I think Erica was saying 12, 13, 14 of April. So I'm hoping we can both make it out for that, because that'd be wonderful to do as again. And I know they're on the way to planning even bigger and better things than last year. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, Picard season 3 episode by episode reviews was incredible. We had Jenny Johnson on with us. That was wonderful having her perspective and having her as a guest host, and obviously doing the episode by episode reviews of Picard and Strange New Worlds. We tried the episode by episode review of Ahsoka. I wish the show had been better. We might have had better things to say about it.
Yeah.
But that was still fun. I've really gotten into and enjoying the episode by episode reviews where we can just dive deeper into each one versus talking about a whole season or a whole show.
Yeah. Those have been really fun because we get to uh, really explore the different themes in whatever the show is, right? When we do a deep dive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Number two was getting this little guy. You probably can't see him. Being that he's so dark, he's hard to see unless the lighting's really good. But anyways, yeah, he decided to come back in the room, so he's with me again. But yeah, getting him waited over a year for him to get him from the time he was. I got in a wait list until the time he was born, so it was wonderful. But
Yeah.
Chris,
Yes.
my number one highlight. Again, this is not including family and things like that, right? You know, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like my number one highlight from this year was continuing to do the podcast with you, my friend.
Oh, that is
That was number one.
that's number one. Oh, that's
It's
awesome,
number
Zach.
one. And you know, we've had a lot of phone
Yeah.
conversations about work and family and just, the chaos that is life sometimes.
Yeah.
And this podcast, I know for both of us, has been very therapeutic. It helps us just kind of unwind and kind of almost a little bit of escapism, right? Kind of get away from reality for a little while and talk about the things we love and enjoy. Basically, we're recording our phone calls, like we've
Yeah.
always talked about. This is the staple of our podcast, is recording these conversations we've had, whether it's the deep discussions we've had about a particular show or our favorite thing we read or book or whatever. So yeah, that was definitely number one for me.
Oh, that's awesome, Zach. Awesome, Zach. My
So
my
yeah, what about you?
yeah, well my number one is similarly themed. It is when I got to see you in person in February and we got to reunite and
Yeah.
kind of experience all of that events in the Shuttle Pod show together at the same time on simultaneous and be in the same room to be able to do that and then to continue like this podcast together as well. And it's not to sound like sappy or anything like that, but it is just it, it is very meaningful, right? To be able to go on this journey together. And then because we talk about a variety of a lot of things on the show, but like outside of the show,
Yeah.
like a lot of things that are happening like in our personal lives. And I had reflected back on this year, and you know I traveled a lot this year, and so I had
You
yeah
you
I
must have a million frequent flyer miles at this point.
yeah so it was well over it was either 20 or 30 um business various business trips that I did.
Yeah.
The only real trip that was non um there was only two trips that were non kind of business related, and then the one where we got to see each other, that was
Yeah.
the trip. And that is so meaningful for me, to be able to see you and for us to do that. And recently, like so if I can share the books in the background, this this meant so much to me. So you had shared the Patrick Stewart Making It So book, and then the Arnold Schwarzenegger Be Useful book. And the Arnold Schwarzenegger copy is signed by him, and it was incredible because as we're growing up as adolescents, and we're seeing different role models and figures, whether they're in or action heroes, right? Whether they're in the public media or they're in our personal lives, or in they're in science fiction or the shows that we like. But we generate those kind of archetypes like in our mind, and those role models that we have. And so certainly, those characters of Captain Picard and the persona of Arnold Schwarzenegger, like growing up, those were always individuals like I had really looked up to. And then when we're in our moments of like of darkness, or we don't feel good about ourselves, we look up to those individuals. And so, Zach, that was so meaningful, like for me. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's been. I mean, we every year has its ups and downs, right? And we go through things and we deal with things and so forth. Um, but at the end of the day, I think we can be feel fortunate and blessed that we're still here, right? We have a heartbeat, we have a pulse sometimes,
Yeah.
and we have a family and we have a roof over our heads. We got a lot of things to be thankful for. I mean, there's been some very 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 challenging stuff that's gone on with me professionally that I've
Mm.
had to work through and stuff, and so that's been really a challenge emotionally and physically and mentally and everything else. But so it's really easy to get bogged down and kind of have this mindset of I'm not good enough and what's wrong with me and these kinds of other things. But I also have to stop and say, well, yeah, but you're also really blessed. You have a lot more than a lot of people do, and um, you're fortunate enough to be able to do the things that you want to do. You have a family who's supportive, and a wife who's supportive, and you have a hobby and you buy all this geeky junk. Um, and your wife's understanding about it. So yeah, I've had a hard time, I think, this year, um, reminding myself of that at times. Like, hey, like try to, because I've had some very deep gullies, deep valleys that I've had to work through, mostly professionally, and it's like, okay, though it sucks, but things could always be worse, right? Things could be worse, right? I could not have a job at all, right?
Yeah.
I could be, unemployed, or I could be struggling to make a rent, or whatever. But I own a home and I have a family who's healthy and happy and taken care of, and that's um, you know, the Lord's blessed me quite a bit in my life. So I have to do my best to try and look at that and not always just look at the negative, right? Like look at the peaks, not just the valleys.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think we both do. I'm not going to speak for you, but I think we both have a lot to be thankful for. And obviously your friendship and the podcast has been something I'm very thankful for. It's amazing that a couple of years ago, I mean, we're going to be going into our third year here in next year of a podcast. It's amazing to think that our phone calls turn into this. And it's, I mean, I'm glad everything has worked out the way it has. Obviously, it'd have been great if we had, maybe connected even more than we did through martial arts when I was still living in Alaska, and that
Yeah.
we would have had, more time in person to hang out. But, it's been great. I've had an awesome time. This podcast has been wonderful. Thank you, by the way, to all of you out there who listen and watch us.
Yeah.
Uh, Talk about our favorite stuff, share our favorite things, go through movies and show reviews with us. Have guests on. We love it. I'll be honest with you, Chris. I said this. I think I said this before we started recording with Matt, and I said this before to you on the phone. That and not just with him, other people too, but in general, like we have had a chance to hang out and talk with, and I'll say quote unquote interview or have a conversation with people I never would have expected to have had it not been for the podcast. Um, if you would have, if you go back in time and tell a young me, like, hey man, when you get older, you're gonna have a chance to interview the now visitor or have a conversation with a now visitor and Natalia Nogalich and be friends with her and friends with Sean Cannon, who played Mike Barnes in Karate Kid 3 amongst a lot of other stuff. And oh, by the way, have a conversation with the guy who created your favorite TV show of all time outside of Star
Yeah.
Trek. I mean, I wouldn't have believed you. Not for a second. Not for a second. I mean, some of the stuff that I've watched on TV over the years, um, meeting the creators, meeting the people that are playing those characters, it's humbling and it's a huge honor to be able to learn more about them. And we look forward to the people we're going to bring this coming year onto the show. We've already got a lineup and list of people we're scheduling right now. And as soon as we can announce them, we will. Once we have dates and confirmations and everything. Well, I've already got the confirmations. It's got to work the dates out, but we've got some really fantastic guests and some really big guests coming that we just can't wait to talk with you guys.
Yeah, that is going to be amazing. It's really neat to hear the creators like talk about what was in their mind uh, when they were doing whatever task it was, or creating the show, or crafting a piece of artwork, or finding a piece of carpet, right? Or getting in their mind like a on a specific part, like in a show, for what comes to my mind is for Commander Shelby.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or learning what they want to aspire to do. Like what comes to my mind is I believe Hamlet for Natalia.
Mm,
So that is really enjoyable, like to learn, because there's so
yeah.
much creativity that goes into it. And
Yeah, and
uh,
and you learn things about people that you never would have known had you not had the time to sit down and talk with them. I mean,
mhm.
especially some of the Star Trek guests, I'll say in particular, people who've been on Star Trek, having gone to the like 8, 9 conventions, whatever it has been now that I've gone to the Star Trek conventions. You hear a lot of the same stuff over and over again because people ask the same kinds of questions over. So, what's your favorite episode? And oh, what about just like stuff that you're like, okay, that gets kind of old after a while because it's just you hear the same questions over and over again. For some people, that's great because maybe it's their first convention. They've never asked a question to the celebrity before. But that's fine. I'm not necessarily making fun of them, but it's the repetition, right, of the questions that you hear over and over again and that
Sure.
they get asked over and over. So when we have them on, I know one of the things that we take pride in, Chris, is the idea of really digging down and learning about them as a person and their careers and not just what was your favorite episode or what was your favorite line or something like that they might hear at a convention, but other questions, right? And I find whether it was with Nana or Natalia or anybody else you've had on, I don't want to know just about Star Trek. I want to learn about their whole careers and things and how they got there and how they got the role and their work and how they became an actor or an actress or a writer or producer or director or whatever, right?
Yeah. You know what was really cool about Nana's interview, at least that I really enjoyed, was when she started talking about the flow state of
Oh yeah.
mind and seeking that in whatever her endeavors would be.
Yep.
That was fantastic
Yeah,
to hear
I
about.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was fun. But I mean, we've just had such a great time this year. Um, we're so thankful. I mean, we're in. I think we might even be over 40 countries now that are listening and watching all over. So we appreciate you guys everywhere. And the number of listeners we've had on the podcast platforms, the number of people on YouTube, it's been great, and we so much thank you for your support.
Mm.
Um, we've had a lot of great feedback from you guys and gals out there who, um, you know, love the series reviews and the episode by episode reviews and the celebrity guest interviews. And to me, I think it's just as much fun sharing those with you all as it is doing the interviews or the discussions or conversations, whatever you want to call them. Um, it's been a ton of fun, and we've watched a lot this year. We've read well, maybe I haven't read as much, but between the two of us, we've read a lot,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
like 80% of that being you. But there's a lot more to come, and I look forward to going back and doing those. And we have a lot of great episodes planned coming up in the near future, Chris, don't we?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And they're gonna be a ton of fun. Even meeting like meeting potential directors or actual directors, that's all gonna be like really interesting. And uh, yeah, and expanding the number of countries. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to that.
I know
Hoping we
you
get to
want Antarctica, right? Yeah.
totally. Yeah, there's got to be if someone from Antarctica is listening, they should please message us, let us know that you're in Antarctica. We'd really love like and they have a whole bunch of scientific stations there.
Yeah,
I
they
know
do.
someone's got to be listening.
Maybe there's enough people out there who like nerdy, geeky stuff like we do, right? Um, yeah, it's really been fun. And I'm looking forward to the upcoming episodes we're gonna do over the next year.
Mhm.
Um, I would say too, Chris, one of the things I found maybe the most fascinating, to quote Spock here, uh, about this past year of the podcast is as the year went on and the more we discussed different topics, the more we had our different guests on, the more I have learned how much more fascinated and more interested I am in learning about all the behind the scenes stuff, what it takes to make the magic that we see on screen,
Mhm.
whether it's producing, writing, directing, show running, you name it. It's so great to see and experience kind of the A to Z of the whole creative process.
Yeah, absolutely. Because in their mind is the world, and they're totally engaged in the world building, and they may have spent so much time on a project, like an amazing amount of time, right? Because that would have the genesis and the origination would have come to their mind maybe years before, and they're finally getting to this point, where they're able to complete the project, like incorporate their craft, and have something for the world to see. So it's just all of all of what is involved in that is fascinating, but all of what inspires that is fascinating too, right? All of like
Yeah.
from back, what have they enjoyed? What have they enjoyed reading? What have they enjoyed watching? What have they enjoyed like thinking about and doing? That's just wonderful to hear, and it helps like connect all of us too, because as each of us like has those different ideas, we can hear that how they've incorporated their ideas into something that we can enjoy and watch and
Yeah.
experience together. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can give you guys a little sneak peek behind the curtain for next year. Our guests, we've got some incredible uh, folks coming up. We've got people who are in front of the camera as actors and actresses. We've got a we've got playback supervisors, directors, production designers, and much, much more. So you're going to have to stay tuned or hit subscribe on whatever platform you're watching us on, whether it's YouTube or podcast platform, to be sure and catch what's coming down the road. Also, Facebook and Instagram, that's where we do all of our updates for celebrity guest announcements, episode announcements, show reviews, you name it, funny memes, whatever, it's all on there. Instagram and Facebook, just look up the Random Redshirt podcast. But yeah, Chris, this has been an incredible year. This has probably been the biggest year for our podcast so far, obviously.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that next year will be even bigger as we look forward to certain events and things. I know the one thing I'm not looking forward to next year, and I don't know exactly where yet, but we're going to be moving. So
Yeah.
just professionally, I'm moving for a different job. So we're going to be moving. I don't know where that is yet, but that's going to kind of be a little bit of a stinker. But uh, we're still going to do the podcast. It'll just take some additional logistical work, but that's
Yeah.
okay. We're still going to make it happen. So there will be probably a little gap in time where we're not creating some content while I'm in the process of a move, but we will get there eventually.
And we'll be thinking about you when you move. And
Yeah, we'll see. We'll
yeah,
see how it goes. We'll see how
yeah.
it goes. But yeah, Chris, anything else you want to add as we wrap up 2023 and prepare for 2024?
Other than this has been just a very, very meaningful year to continue our wonderful and strong friendship, to kind of develop those relationships that we've both developed with the people that have joined us on the show, to see and to hear some of the people that have been so gracious and so loyal to come in during our live events, like every live event, and be there with us is just really, really meaningful for Zach and I, and just to be
Yeah.
part of that community. It's super. And
Yeah,
we'll
it
look
really
forward.
has
Yeah,
been.
yeah, we'll look forward to doing more, as much more as we can.
Yeah, we've got some amazing things planned coming down the road over the next 3 to 4 months at least, if not, and some other stuff farther out. But in the next 3 to 4 months, especially, you've got an incredible lineup of guests coming as I confirm those dates and we get them scheduled. We look forward to that. Really excited about a few of these guests. I mean, I've said that about every guest we've had, so I guess that's not anything new. But I'm always excited when we have somebody come on with us and share their lives and their careers with us and take an hour and a half out of their day to share that with us and with you. And we hope that you find those discussions and conversations we have with them meaningful, because we know we do. Always learn a lot, Chris, and we really love getting to know them and sharing their passions with the audience.
Yep, absolutely. So those of you that are listening, probably, well, obviously you can't see that Zach and I we're both wearing Star Trek shirts today. So,
Wait, we're wearing Star Wars, aren't we?
oh man, I just said that totally wrong.
Blooper reel. Here we go.
We're
Put that
wearing
in.
Star
Beep.
Wars
Star
shirts.
Trek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Star
Yeah.
Wars
Yeah.
shirts. Yeah,
Star Wars.
right.
Yeah.
There we
It
go.
is the season, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's right. The was it is Star Wars, was it Life Day? Is that what it's called? That their version of Christmas is Life Day or something like that in Star
Yeah,
Wars?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called. But yeah, so we thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us all over the interwebs and all over the globe, whether it's on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support throughout this past year, a couple of years, whether you've been listening to us from the very first episode where we did our top 10 science fiction franchises. Chris, I was thinking, and
Yeah.
by the way, we're coming up on 100 episodes. I
Yeah.
was thinking maybe some point down the road, we should revisit and see if our top 10 science fiction franchises has changed since we first started doing the podcast.
I was
Because
thinking the same thing.
it
Yeah.
might have. It might have.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. And I was thinking, if some of the listeners can share what theirs are,
Yeah.
they can message their top 10 science fiction
And if you
franchises.
don't have 10, just tell us top five.
Yeah.
Even, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. That would inspire us, that we can talk about those too. Because if we
Yeah.
haven't seen theirs, we could go out and seek and watch those as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, it just made me think of this. Speaking
Yeah.
of
Yes.
another show that I watched this year, it's on Disney Plus, is a modern version of Goosebumps, the book series by R.L. Stein that I used to read when I was a kid.
Oh.
They came out in the 90s. It was super popular, still is.
Yeah.
And so they made a series on Disney Plus called Goosebumps, and every episode. So in the 90s, there was also a TV version of Goosebumps besides the books, and each episode was based on a different book. And they weren't tied together. This one follows a group of kids at a high school and their parents, and all this stuff goes on and happens. And so one of the actors in it is an actress by the name of Issa Briones, who we know as Daj and Soji
Oh,
from Picard season one.
for real?
For real,
Wow.
Issa Briones is in it. She's one of the students. I know she's not that young, but she looks young enough to play it. So, and she was wonderful. She plays a character by the name of Margot, I think is her character name.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting take. There are things about it I'm not a fan of, but overall I liked it. It was good. But yeah, I thought of that right when you were talking about those shows. I thought of that. That was another new series I had watched this year. So I've watched
Awesome, man.
more series and shows I think than I watched movies this year.
Yeah.
But
I will do my best to because I want to talk about Indiana Jones with you once I get a chance to see it and you get a chance to see it. So I'm gonna do my best to see that.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Dial of Destiny. Yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
watch that still. I know it's on Disney Plus now, so you can stream it there. But
Yeah.
yeah, we gotta watch that for sure. So, but anyways, we hope you all have had a great year. We know life's not easy, so there's probably been times where maybe things weren't, and we just hope that you take care. And you can always reach out to us if you ever need anything, you need to talk, whatever. You're more than welcome to email us, the Random Redshirt Podcast at gmail.com, or reach out to us via Instagram and Facebook or YouTube. You can do that too. But thank you so much. If this is your first time or your 100th time watching or listening to us, we do very much appreciate that. So we will be back soon with another video. I think the next one we're going to do is going to be a fun little topic. And we also have
Uh,
another spotlight episode coming where we're going to
yes.
deep dive into another episode of Star Trek, which we will share with you in the near future. So thanks as always, everybody. Take care, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.